Ah, that seems okay, is it?
All right. Good afternoon, good evening, good day, good morning, good day to everybody that's there. And thank you. I have been reading the chat, and thank you for all the well wishes over the last week or so. There's just too many to put in the things. Now, tonight's going to be a little bit different. Sid is actually going to be earworming for us because Jay is also partly earworming, but he's helping Amber at the same time. Now, if they reckon they're nervous, man, you want to see me. I'm nervous as hell about this. I'm used to having an audience in front of me where I can walk up to them and move the chisel where I want them or put them where I need them. So just bear with me. I'll try not to yell too much, and I won't be reading the chat. And I would ask that, and Sid is virtually only there. He's not acknowledging who's coming in or anything else except in the typing part. But if you've got a question or something to do while we're doing something, just put 3 question marks or a few Q's in there so that he can pick it up and he can ask me and I'll answer it as soon as I can in the break. All right. So, all right, off with the motley. Here we go. I'll just change cameras for a minute.
Good luck.
Gee, thanks. That's what I needed.
Now, normally when I'm teaching, the first 15 to 20 minutes or half an hour is spent on nothing but safety. I'm normally used to teaching people that have never even used a power tool before. But what I will do is I'll put the 3 links underneath of 3 or 4 safety videos that I've got up on my channel, my other channel, that are well worth a look. It covers the lathe and everything else. There will be other ones as well. My biggest bugbear with a lot of things is the fact that most lathes these days, variable speed lathes, have remote switches. You can move the switch from the headstock down to the tailstock. And I saw a bad accident in one of the clubs where I do demonstrations and things. He had a piece and the edge flew off it. He put his hand straight through the middle of it because he couldn't see the bit on the air to reach the switch on the headstock. Now, the manufacturers put the switches on the headstocks because that's a convenient place to put them. That's where there's room. But if you have a remote switch, put it down on the tailstock end.
Yeah.
That way you do not have to reach past the headstock to turn it off if anything goes awry. Now, even though I do not have remote switches on my lathes, what I do is, I'll just change cameras back again, is here is the switch on my lathe at the moment on the headstock up here, behind the headstock, which is a pain, I know, but I'm used to it there. But the main switch is down there on the wall. I can kill the whole system from that switch if anything goes wrong. So I don't have to walk past the headstock to get to anything. All my lathes are switched on the main switches down at the tailstock end. And another little trick, if you're interested, is if you've got a stand, put about, hold on, I'll see if I can pick it up. I'll go up to full screen, won't I? Put about a half a dozen GPOs on the end. It saves having to drag leads all over the workshop to power drills or anything else, or spray guns or anything else. And all you got to do then is just plug in on the end of the lathe and you've got everything nice, close, handy. We use a lot of angle grinders and things quite often, so that's the way we get around it, just by putting them there. Okay. Now, the next thing that I generally get people to do is lathe maintenance. Now, I also have a video on lathe maintenance on my website, there's an ulterior motive for that. There's two ulterior motives, actually. It makes sure that the lathe moves nice and easily and everything's clean. And it cleans up my lathe, saving me having to do it every time. So I tend to make them a bit dirty sometimes, so I cheat a bit. And the students have to clean them up. It also gives them an idea of what the lathe does and how it feels and all of that, and where belts and things and everything are, where switches and everything are. Now, then I generally go through the lathe itself with the names of all the parts of the lathe, but I'm assuming that everybody knows most of it. The most important part is how the switch operates, because in an emergency, you do not want to be scrounging around looking at how to shut the thing off or how to slow the lathe down. Now, with the exception of two lathes in my place, I do not have variable speeds. They're all belt drives. So, because they're constant drive for most of the things I do. Okay, now the bits we're going to start on. I'll just get everybody back up on the screen again so I can sort of keep an eye on it. And put it onto full screen. I can't read the chat now, so rightio. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to get your wood and just listen for half a second, there's about 4 or 5 different ways of centering a piece of wood. You can just use a finger guide like this if you're a carpenter, and you end up with a little square in the center here, and you just mark it with a brad awl. Like so. So try that method first.
You're not on mute, Amber. You're not on mute.
Rightio. Okay, there's proprietary centre finders, which are these type of things. You can get yellow ones, aluminium ones, depends on what you want. They've got a right angle on one side and an angled one on the back. That's the angled one's for doing circular stuff. I just use the square one here and just make sure it's into the corner. Same thing, corner to corner. And mark a hole in it. Are you copycat, Rob? Either that or it's gone across the net.
Is Rob at Robbo's house?
Yeah.
Okay, grab another piece of wood. And this time it's just a rule. Get a rule with your pencil. Put it corner to corner. Same thing again.
Never mind. You know what? I'll go like this. I need a roller.
And the last way that I normally use is a marking gauge. Now, I know you won't have a marking gauge there, but when I use a marking gauge, it's for furniture legs to get a dead accurate centre in them. And the furniture legs and that are all machine dead square. Now, there is another way as well. This is for production turning, and it's called a bonking board. It's got a screw in the centre down here. Wait on. I'll zoom it in a bit if I can. It'll be right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's got a screw in the centre here, You set the wood in like that, twist it to the right, bonk, and then lift it out, and it leaves a dimple already marked in it. Okay, put those centered bits out of the way. I'll just give myself room to move here now. Put my safety glasses on.
Yep.
Okay. Now, the most important thing is that you make sure that your Morse tapers in here are nice and clean. That's the reason that I do lathe maintenance on them, because if you're turning bowls all the time, particularly with chucks, it sucks. It acts like a fan, and it sucks dust up, particularly into the headstock one, and you'd be surprised at how filthy they get. So put the tailstock centre in, headstock centre in. Now, I tend to use stab centres for drives, and I've been using these centres for over 40 years. They're a wood fast centre. I've never broken one or anything. Yep, that's good, Rob. Rightio. Put him in the other end.
Don't worry about it.
Everyone's showing theirs, I'm showing mine.
Oh, that's wet food, isn't it?
Now, on some things you'll see where they say you get your drive spur and you thump it in to the end here, particularly like the spur drives like Jay's got or Amber's got there.
Robbo, Ricky has a question.
All right, just hold on a second. I'll finish this bit first. I've never hammered a drive spur in yet. I use the tailstock for pushing up, and those that reckon the bearings can't take it, think of the bearings in the rear wheel bearings of a car or even bicycle wheel bearings, how much load they're under and the punishment they take before they get damaged. So, the reason I think that most people hammer them in is they've been reading old books and it's handed down from generation to generation. It's like the bloke who's cooking a leg of lamb, or his wife's cooking a leg of lamb, and she cuts the shank off. And he says to her, "Dear, why do you cut the shank off?" "I don't know, my mother did it." So he goes along and asks mother-in-law and says, "Mother-in-law, how come you cut the shank off the leg of lamb?" "Oh, I don't know, my mother did it." So he goes along to great-grandma who's in the nursing home and says, "Great-grandma, you've got to answer a question. Why do you cut the shank off the leg of the lamb when you put it in the oven for a roast?" "Because it wouldn't bloody fit." So that's the things get handed down from generation to generation without being questioned why. And I think the reason that people hammer drive spurs in, I can understand on some hard timbers, is because they didn't have revolving cup centres. And they couldn't get the force here without burning the end of the timber with a dead centre. So we're lucky we've got revolving cup centres on. On that point, I never use a cone centre in the tailstock, except if I've got a hole that it's got to be centred in, like if I'm doing lamps or pepper mills or something like that, then I use a cone centre. Because with a lot of soft timbers, particularly small timbers as well, a cone centre can actually split the timber. So I always use a revolving cup centre. Now, before you put the wood in the lathe, always extend the quill out about an inch so that you've got lateral movement. It's far easier. Right, just watch the screen for a minute. It's far easier to sit the timber in there, get the tailstock up close, lock it in, and then use the hand wheel to actually put it into the timber instead of trying to move the whole tailstock. Like on one of our lathes here, the tailstock weighs 160 kilos, so you can't move it around too easily. Okay, now Ricky's question, Sid. Sorry.
Yeah, I think you've already actually almost answered it. Ricky's question was, is it frowned upon to bang the centre on a lathe?
Yes, it is. And the only cardinal sin really is if you use a steel hammer to drive it in with, because you bell out the end of the Morse taper, and then it wobbles in the taper itself. Doesn't run straight.
Don't do that.
Okay, now when you've got the timber in, position your tool rest so that you've got. Now, people say to put the tool rest up as close as you can to the work. Always leave about half a finger gap there, because you need the space. Yep, just move it out just a fraction, Rob, because you need that room to manoeuvre the chisel sometimes. Wood turning is all about physics, mainly leverage. This is your fulcrum. This is your lever. That is the load, and this ends the force. If the load exceeds the force over the fulcrum, you're in trouble.
It's not straight. I'm good.
Okay, now set the lathe down to the lowest speed if you've got variable speeds.
You're fine. Don't move it.
okay.
It's turned off.
Well, I don't know.
Now, at the moment, this tailstock lock, your spindle lock on your tailstock should be loose. You shouldn't have tightened it yet.
Yep.
So start the lathe up while you step off to the side. Now, tighten your tailstock again.
That doesn't work.
Tighten it here. Remember that?
Oh,
And then
yeah, and then that. Yeah.
Jay, that tailstock's creeping on the bed, I think. Righty, you can switch the lathes off for a minute now. Now, the reason that you leave that spindle lock loose on the tailstock, I'll just see if I can get this back a bit further. No, it's back as far as it'll go, unfortunately. I'll just go up. I'll just put it on the full screen for a minute. Hopefully we can pick it up. Yep. The reason that you don't lock the tailstock down, and this is the lock on mine, this one up here, is that when the lathe starts up, you've got a stationary object here, and this spins here. And what it does is dig itself into the timber. So you tighten the tailstock up again to make sure that it's locked in. I see a lot of things where I can hear the timber actually rattling because it's loose. And it's particularly prevalent in four-prong spur drives and things like that, because they dig in a lot deeper, and then the timber actually rattles. Now, I just hope I can get this back to all of you. Where are we? This is all new here. Exit full, that's it. Oh, wait on. That didn't work. Where am I?
Exit solo.
Rightio. Now I'm right. Okay. It's okay. Just waiting for the computer to catch up to my brain. Right. Now I'll put everybody back on full again so they can see. Rightio. Good. Now, spindle roughing gouges. This is a traditional English spindle roughing gouge. It's a U shape like that. It's sharpened straight across both ways, generally an angle of 45 degrees. Now this is great. It's mainly made for furniture. And if you've got machine timber like this, that's square, it's great for roughing it down. Yeah, the angle doesn't really matter. That's probably a bit longer than I'd normally use, Rob, but that's fine. Right, now, there is a European spindle roughing gouge. And it looks like this. It is a U-shaped gouge. It's a forged gouge, like that. 45 degrees again on the bevel angle there. I put a thumbnail grind on this because on rough timber, if you've got a knotty piece of timber like this, like that, if you use the normal English spindle roughing gouge on it, if you hit that knot with the wing, it is quite easy to break the tool. As you can see, this one's had an extension welded on it for that reason. It broke the tool. It snapped it off at the tang. So on rough timber like this, always use the European style or a spindle gouge with a thumbnail grind, or in fact I even recommend using a bowl turning gouge for that, just until that part's down out of the way, and then you can use your spindle roughing gouge on it. Spindle roughing gouges do not like end grain very much. They react very, very badly with it, generally to the detriment of the operator. So, okay, now, the stance that you use for using the spindle roughing gouge. The first thing is, it can be used at right angles to the lathe. I'll just see if I can get that camera out a bit more. I don't know that I can. Well, that upset it. Right. You can use it straight on, or you can have the flute just sort of facing the way that you move it. It is put down at 45 degrees on your hip.
Yeah, I might get that.
See if I can get far enough back for it.
And like that.
It's down on your hip like that, on the tool rest, like that. That's part of the 45. Now, you can open the flute out. The spindle roughing gouge can be used over the whole surface. And just to give you an idea, I'll just move the camera in a little bit so you can see it. Now, normally when you're roughing out, just go back to the other camera, never start at one end and run right along. Always do it in little increments. Now, if the chisel starts at this angle, it must finish at that angle no matter where it is on the rest. And the only way you can do that is by getting a proper stance and hip movement. And I'll go into that as soon as we've roughed this down, all right? But I'm sure you're all dying to get turning. So start at one end, about an inch or so in, and work your way back along it. Now don't take it all the way down. Just take it down to about about there. So you're leaving one little bit of square on it, okay?
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to, yeah. I think I'm going to do that. So, this isn't cool on honey
No, Amber, just leave a square end on it, please.
What, so that way?
Go that way. Down there,
Yeah.
around like that, see the bevels up there?
Yeah.
You get that?
Right, that's good, Rob. That's good, Brian.
Yep, don't worry about that. Yep, yep, don't worry about that. Just try not to push too hard on this.
Okay, you
Alright,
ready?
so and come around a bit more.
Drop your handle, please, Amber. Drop the handle, Amber.
Yeah, yeah. Go down like this.
Yeah, sorry. There.
Right, Rob, try taking a deep cut.
Yeah.
Rob, try taking a deep cut.
Yeah, I'm about there, look. Don't go much further anyway, so...
Right, that's better. Okay, hold it there, Rob. Nicely. Right, you got it down around, Amber?
No,
Right, get it down around.
Just put it on mute if you want.
yeah. I can catch up.
Keep going, you're all right. Move your body with the chisel, Amber. Don't move the chisel independently. You just move your body with it. Same with you, Rob. You're pulling with your left hand. Just sway backwards and forwards. I'll show you in a minute. Yeah, that's good, Brian. Right, how are you going there, Amber? Right, that'll do for the time being. Right. Okay, next thing I want you to do, put the chisel in so that it's standing straight up and down with the flute facing the square edge. And what you're going to do is a peeling cut straight in, like that.
This way now, remember? Because the bevel's facing the other way.
This is what we're doing, just like that.
Yeah. Put your handle down a little bit too.
Yeah. Well, because it was supposed to be straight like that.
Now get it right over, straight up and down, Amber.
Yeah, right up and down.
Handle down low. Handle right down low. Then move it into it. Yeah, you're not cutting it, Amber. I can tell by the finish you're scraping it. So keep your handle down low, please.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Form right there.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
No, because then I didn't do too much, see? Right.
You're not down low enough with the handle, Amber.
Yeah, that's right.
Drop the tool rest as well.
As far as it goes down now, it went down to half a
Any questions so far, Sid, or not?
No, they're all behaving very well at the moment, Robbo.
Oh, very good. Tighten your tailstock, Amber. Right, now, Brian and Rob, if you feel like, just keep going, doing that until you've virtually got it down round right to the end, okay? Just for the moment. Or just leave about half an inch on the end, will you please? Brian and Rob, just leave about half an inch on the end. That's the plan.
So we've had a couple of comments, Robbo.
Yeah. I'll get that in a second. Drop your handle down, Amber. You're not cutting it. Right. Rob, just try taking a slightly larger cut. Just try taking a slightly larger cut. That's good, Rob. Rightio. Right, Amber, how are you going? Right.
It's not my night tonight.
Well,
Nothing's working.
okay, Rob, just leave it at that for a minute. That'll do fine. Right, just make the cylinder smooth all the way along now, Rob. That's it. Beautiful. All right, I'll just I'll just go on with the next bit. Now, you can see why the chisel's shaped that way, because why the spindle roughing gouge is shaped that way, because if you're running down here and you come up to the pommel, you can rotate it right round and come up with a nice clean edge on it. Now, as I said before, you can use any part of this chisel. It will cut anywhere. So you got 3 inches of cutting edge around this one on this one anyway. Now I'll just get rid of this bit here.
So while you're doing that, Robbo, I'll just read the comments for you. Mark,
right.
the gentleman Wood-Turner, said we dare not talk in the classroom because the teacher is scary. Woodwork Learner said he's learnt more in 10 minutes of watching Robbo than he has in hours of others' videos. So far, I've been doing everything wrong. And Chris Dodds mentioned that in his day, the teacher would throw things, so he's a bit frightened there might be a gouge coming across the room.
Yeah, I could probably hit him from here, actually, if I do Manoli enough. Now, whenever you're checking for round, there's 2 or 3 ways you can do it. You can sit the chisel on top, and if it rattles like this, you know that you haven't got it round. Or you can use your hand. Now, the worst thing you can do is to put your fingers straight in, like that. Always, if you're going to feel it with your hand, always come up to about the knuckle line here and just sit it on top. And if there is anything loose in there, at least it's just going to cut you a little bit here. But any of you that have caught a football or a soccer ball or any sort of ball or anything on the ends of your fingers and shocked your hand, that's the feeling you're going to get, which is not nice, I can assure you. Right. Now, when you get up to this end here, don't come in off the end here, come back into here, and then take that end off. All right, so just turn it right down to round now. Oh, that's good, Amber. You're starting to move your body with it now. That's good. Yeah, don't take it down too thin, please. A moment.
Robbo, you mind if I just make a comment here for a sec?
Go
Just
for it.
to RoboCop, when this session's finished, mate, it might pay you to just open up your headstock and check those grub screws on your Reeves drive again. I reckon they're coming loose by the noise your machine's making.
Ah, I didn't know my microphone was on. My microphone is on, right? Okay, thank you.
Just wait on Amber for a second to get that down to round. Okay, now, you can do a little bit of preliminary shaping with a spindle roughing gouge. Like this big one, of course, limits you a fair bit. But if I go down to my European one, like you can round over the end of that. Like so. You can put little coves in it if you like. Or you can do long tapers with it. Just to get it rough down to shape. So give that a whirl. Just round over the end a little bit. Put a couple of little coves in it.
Just like that and then...
Yeah, just start there.
Yeah.
And then kind of go up this way. Go like that.
Yeah.
Like at the very end of the corner, not the
And
corner,
then
just
just come
move it
back.
up. Sort of watch this and back, alright?
Okay.
Then come back and round in the bits of this.
Yeah.
But you don't kind of stick it in the bubble one, you see that?
Yeah, so this thing there.
Yeah, did you?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Really?
Remember the corner, not like the corner touching this.
Yeah, here like this.
Yeah.
And then
Head up there, like that. And then kind of go like that. Like a little bit. And then push it at the same time. Yeah, totally.
and how do I pull that? Like that? What did you say to? Like that? And how do I know which one?
Don't cut uphill, Brian. When you're cutting, always cut down towards the centre. Don't go past the centre line. That's better. Good.
I like to
Hair into it, Rob.
Yeah.
Try taking a big cut, Rob. That's it. You should be getting shavings on, not done. Try taking a big cut, Rob. Rightio.
He's making a hammer to bash me.
Now, the next thing that you can do, and I take it that you can all see my camera okay, can you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Going to use it like a skew chisel. Now, what you do is you cut with it just off the base of the curve here. And you hold the flute up, bring it around. And you should end up with a cut as smooth as a baby's bum.
Shoot.
So give that a try.
oh, yeah. Yeah, so then like that.
You can use
Like here. And then put it there like that.
Rob, is that lathe going as fast as it can?
Oh, right. Let's do it.
Sorry, Robert. Now when you
Okay, now. Rightio, you've had a bit of fun now destroying some timber. So, we'll get into the techo bits of using the spindle roughing gouge now. Now, there's two two holes when you're using the spindle roughing gouge. There's an underhand one like this. Now this is normally the one that I use. There's an overhand one like that. The problem with the overhand one on roughing stuff down is that the sawdust comes in here and gets clogged up. The other thing is that if, in a lot of cases on our Australian timbers particularly, we don't get shavings, we get splinters off it. So you end up with splinters and shredding all the skin on the side of your hand there. So I use the underhand grip like this so the shavings get right out of the way and can clear the flute. So just practice. In both cases, your index finger or the heel of your hand is running along the rest here to guide it to keep the, so that it doesn't dig in or move away. So just try both things and run right along it and get it down flat again.
I need to get closer, better up there.
That's it. Really tear into it, Rob. They're lucky to get out of it. You're after speed. So this is where it starts. Now move your left hand up towards the rest a little bit more. So your fingers are guiding along it.
Whenever I do anything, just brushing it right down.
Yeah, just get it down to round, Brian, at the moment. Don't worry too much. Try taking a bigger cut, Rob. Try taking a bigger cut.
Yeah.
Right, Rob, try taking a deeper cut to full length.
Okay.
And another one, Rob. Rightio. All right. Rightio. Now, you can see that by having your finger or your palm down here on the wrist, that it acts like a brake. this hand on the rest here really doesn't do, it shouldn't be doing much work except keeping it in a controlled cut so that it doesn't lag behind if your body gets too far ahead of it. So it's your brake. And that's what controls the smoothness of the cut. If you let it skip, that's why you've got to have smooth tool rests. If you have rough tool rests, it's going to be duplicated exactly into the work. Now, this is the fun bit. And to give me a chance to have a break for a minute, you're going to turn that down to this.
We are, we.
Wow.
Right, well, I think Brian will probably have to go and sit in the naughty corner. He's already done it.
Oh, not yet. I can give half.
See how thin you can get it until it breaks, all right?
All right.
Away you go. Just watch out that you do not run into the headstocks or tailstocks, all right? Move your body, Amber, not just your hands. Yeah, it's still a lousy way to make toothpicks, in my opinion. Ah, well done, Brian. Stop it, Brian. You're trying to shame me or something.
Hold on, hold on.
Ah, shit.
You missed a bit on the floor there, Brian.
I'll get it.
I'm waiting for the shoe shine boy to come out and do his shoes too. Oh, very sexy slippers, right.
Got the red steel toe caps on today.
Sorry, I can't hear you properly, Brian, with all the background noise.
Yeah, okay, mate.
We'll have a chat in a minute.
Go, Amber.
Right, good, Amber.
Oh, Amber is right.
Rob's going to get down to 2 millimetres, I reckon.
I don't know.
Mine was fine.
Keep going, Rob. Keep going. Keep going.
Get a snap.
Don't forget to move your body with it, Rob, rather than just pull with your left hand. And try standing a little bit closer to the lathe too.
You ready for another person?
Do it now.
Come on. I thought it was pretty bad, but that's pretty
I've
interesting.
been going for an hour, Robbo.
Yeah, I know. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, this is going to be spread over about the next 3 or 4 weeks if people are interested.
Excellent. I'm up for that.
I'm at least it seems to be working pretty well, I think, at the moment. Might be different when we start getting into the next bit, but we'll see. That's getting ready!
Right on, Rob.
Good man, Rob. Come on, Rob.
Right. Now, there is a purpose behind that, believe it or not. A, it's to let you get some frustration out. And B, it's to make you realise how far you can get down with a chisel on ordinary old pine and stuff like that. And something that size, if it breaks, is not going to hurt you. And that actually is the biggest thing with most beginners, is that they think that a piece of timber coming out of a lathe is going to really do them some serious injury, even though they're working on small stuff. And it's just a little bit of a confidence builder rather than anything else. Don't try with a 2-foot log or 5 ton of timber like I use, because if they do come out, they do hurt. Rightio, you can put the next one in. Now, you don't have to undo your tailstock or anything. You should be able to just back the wheel back and put the timber straight in.
Undo it here.
I'm not used to this thing, okay?
Undo the quill on the hand wheel, not the tailstock.
It's gonna wreck my lathe, man.
Okay.
Now, Rob, that handle that you just touched there to tighten the tool rest in, pull it out and drop it right down so that it's vertical rather than sitting out like that. Right. You want to give yourself as much access down long here as what you can. So, get your spindle roughing gouge when you've got it set up and take it down to round, just down to round, okay?
Yeah.
And then you
Rob, try moving up to the lathe a little, standing closer to it. Rob, just try standing up closer to the lathe. Right, that's good, Brian. Just leave it at that for a minute. I've got it on mute. Don't worry about it. Move your body, Amber, not just your hand. Okay. Now, I've been going on about the stance at the lathe. The closer you can get to the work, the better off you are. Like, this is about where I stand here like this. So, if you're right out here, you've got no control over the timber. Now, when I taught ballroom dancing, most of the fellas are scared of holding the girls and the girls are scared of the blokes. What we used to do was put a sheet of paper between them. They were not allowed to let that paper drop out. They had to hold it in tight, the whole thing that they were doing. And you'll notice boxers, for instance, as well. To protect themselves, they've got their fists right up against their chest. They're not out at arm's length unless they're ready to strike. So the closer you can get, the more control you've got. The other thing is where your feet are. Now, I hope you can see my feet all right down there. Hold on. Bugger. Just hold on a second. Right, can you see my feet or not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're about shoulder width apart, facing almost directly to the lathe. Now, all your movement comes from your hips down, and it's the wood turner's dance. So if I want to move here, I just sway on my hips and knees and ankles. My shoulders don't rock or anything else. I'm like an Irish tap dancer. So you just rock backwards and forwards from the hips down and the knees. Now, if you run out of where you lose your balance, you do the time warp. It's just a step to the left or a step to the right to get yourself back in balance. Now, some people find it a little more comfortable if, like, I put the chisel across myself. Wait on, I'll turn the other camera on. This is where it does get a bit difficult because, right, I put the chisel across myself and actually nearly face down that way with 1 foot ahead of the other, and I just rock backwards and forwards. But that's normally on long stuff. On long stuff, I actually walk along the lathe. So the closer you can get, the other good reason for being up close to the work here is that if it does happen to break or fly out, it's got less of a trajectory to hit you. It's going to hit you in more solid part than your face. Not that you should be hitting yourself. Okay, you've got that down to round. Now what we're going to do is mark it out at three-quarter inch or 20 millimetre intervals, all right? So get your ruler and your pencil.
No, what happened to it?
So I've whacked your link to your other YouTube channel in the chat, Robbo, for all your tutorial videos. So if anyone wants to have a look at that, it's there in the YouTube chat.
Yeah,
Can
good,
you
thanks.
repeat the mills again, Robbo?
20.
Thank you. It's 10. Thank you. That's a bit better.
Now you can mark it around about, just put a mark on it about halfway around. When you start the lathe up,
Oh, yeah, 5, 10.
you can see them then.
Yeah.
If your eyes are 30 or 40 years younger than mine, you can actually see the mark that you just put on straight away, but not these days, unfortunately. Now, don't start the lathe up yet. Just get your lines marked on first.
Look out, Brian's out of scotch.
Yeah.
By tea, by stay. Back to the water.
Okay, you got your marks on?
Yes.
Yep. Thirsty work, this landing.
Yeah, just wait a second. Yeah, don't worry about putting them right round yet, Rob. Just wait a second. Right, you right there, Amber?
Yep.
Okay. Now, look at the screen. Whenever you're marking with a pencil, always face the pencil downhill, not uphill like that. I've got a friend that uses those Stadler propeller pencils, and it hit a knot and it drove it back through his hand. He was 6 hours in surgery getting the tendons and everything fixed up. Now it is the same if you are using dividers like these things here. Where are we? There. A compass or a dividers. Always angle them downhill. So that if they do get caught, that looks like I'm actually going uphill, but I'm actually downhill.
No.
I'll angle it even more. Always angle them down so that if they catch, they just flick out the way down behind the lathe. Same with vernier calipers. I very rarely use verniers for marking out these sorts of things, except across that way. Okay, so get all that marked out first. Okay, now get your skew chisel, and you're going to put you're going to put V-cuts in. So a V-cut is done with the extreme long point of the tool.
Yep.
Just set it straight on the mark and give it a little push.
Yeah, you just get it from the
Yeah. And can it go up a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
yes,
and
yeah.
gently go. Yep.
There we go.
Yeah, do a little.
Oh, you know, this point
Yeah,
here.
I've done it before.
It's got to be held completely. It's got to be held vertically, Amber. Amber. It's got to be held vertically and straight out at right angles to the timber, and just on the point.
Straight in. That's it. Done. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah.
Right. Now to widen them out, you don't have to waggle the chisel around at all. Hopefully you can see that all right. It's up vertically like that at right angles to the timber like this. Just move 0.5 millimetre out to the left or the right, still using the extreme point, and just put a mark in like that. You don't have to waggle it around or anything. The bevel at the side of the tool will do the work. Now this has got a pretty good sit. I've only had 2 valiants so far.
Hey, going remarkably well, Robbo.
Yeah, they are. They're going well.
So at the moment in the chat, all of the Aussies are working out how far away they are from you. So Flick says she's just round the corner.
Flick.
Yeah,
Flick's
I think she's
in
talking about Cameron's corner.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'm pretty sure that she's in, above Brisbane up on the Sunshine Coast somewhere, I think.
Yeah, I can never remember which one's Cameron's corner's one of the 2 corners up there in the top corner of South Australia, where I think it's where New South Wales, Queensland and South Australia meet.
That's Cameron's corner, yep.
So she's just round that corner.
Which is how many hundreds of miles away?
About 2,000, 2,500.
Just south of Brisbane, she said, Robbo.
I knew she was up that way somewhere.
So, Brian, in terms of something you might be able to measure, probably 2 UKs.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's where it laid end to end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a
John
bit,
wrote twice. Yeah, I know.
And if you're talking about Chris Dodd, he's more like 4 UKs going across one side to the other.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
And we complain about having to drive 45 miles to Belfast.
Yeah, but that takes you 3 hours. We can go, a long way in 3 hours.
That's true.
Right, that's good, Rod. All right. Now, listen carefully. Every second one, put a marker in the middle. Just guess it. So, middle that one, middle this one, miss, miss. Hit, miss, hit, miss, hit. Robert's cheating. I'll tell you why in a minute. Right, we got them all marked.
Yeah.
Rightio. Now, when I was being taught wood turning, I did beads and coves for 36 hours. And I said to the bloke, I said, listen, Bruce, his name was. He was a Yorkshireman. He was an English wood turner. He was actually a furniture maker that migrated out in just after the Second World War. And he couldn't continue his trade, so he took up boat building, which was his hobby. But he had a beautiful Wadkin RU lathe in the corner, and I was interested in wood turning, so he taught me over the next 4 or 5 years. I don't know who got more frustrated. I taught him metal work and he taught me woodwork. So anyway, that's beside the point. And I said to him, I said, listen, Bruce, I said, when can I give up doing those bloody beads and codes? I'm getting sick of it. He said, when are you going to do this?
My
ears fell off. So he put 2 lines like this. He said, when you can leave half a line and look at me while you do it.
Can't see you.
Can't see
You're
you.
off camera.
Oh, wait on. Yeah.
Zoom it out a little bit.
Right.
There we go.
So you got to leave half the line there while you're looking at him and talking to him. So anyway, like that.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see that one on.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That was all right where it was, Robbo.
So you get half a line like this down the sides of it. So me being a smart Alec, I got a carpenter's pencil. You'll notice I don't use a carpenter's pencil for marking out. I always use just a normal HB pencil. So I put it on its edge like that. I said, I can't see what the problem is. Easy halving a line like that. Well, I got to whack up the back of the head. Like I said, he had no sense of humour. And he said, I can't exactly use his language on here, but there were a lot of F words in amongst it. Do you want to learn to turn or not, or are you just wasting my time? And I said, oh, well, I'm sorry, Bruce. So anyway, about 2 weeks later, he's using one of my big metal turning lathes. I had a big machine shop as well. And he's got this hunk of metal in there. He's got the tool in it in the compound rest, and he's just about to start just about doing a cut. He had it sticking out too far. Of course, the steel caught the cutter and snapped it clean off. So I slapped him up the back of the head and asked him whether he wanted to keep turning or not. We both pissed ourselves laughing, had a cup of tea, and we're best friends after that. So, all right. Right, now what we've got to do...
Just a quick one, Robbo, here, while we're... Just a little anomaly here. It looks like Robocop's legs are attached to Amber's body on my screen.
Doesn't it? Yeah, it doesn't it?
Wow.
he's breaking into a jig there. So now you know, Rob, what I meant by you cheating with your lines, you know. They're getting wider and wider and wider. Right. Now, the next thing you've got to do is on those lines, come about a third of the way out. All right, so I'll just wind this back a bit now. Whoops, wrong way, Charlie.
All right.
So it doesn't have to be precise.
Okay. I do want to show you.
What? No, I don't know. Is that only that side of this line?
Yeah, between the edge and the line, a third of the way.
A third from the end.
Might need to sharpen that pencil a little bit, Rob, I think.
Yeah, I just made one. Oh no, I've got one here. Nice.
That must be Rob's good drawing pencils.
Okay. Oi, stop preempting, you two.
Aw.
Now, if you have a look at a circle, at any of the poles, it doesn't matter which way you turn it round, it is nearly flat across there. It doesn't start sort of curving until it comes right off the apex of the top there. So when we're doing this, we're going to be doing this with the skew chisel, so this will be fun.
Oh, no.
For him.
It's nearly 9:30 here, which is about half an hour away from Steve, I think's. We got a live on tonight.
Steve's tomorrow night, Robbo.
No, there's no live on today.
No live on tonight. That's why I chose tonight, you idiot, Robbo. Okay. So what the object is now is that we're going to take this down. I'll zoom it in.
Hang on.
Take a bit.
Just
Just with your skew chisel, just take the corner off. Now, you're just using the extreme short point. Next week, I'll go into the ins and outs of the skew chisel properly. Then you come back onto that line, that third line, the one that's a third of the way out. And curve it over.
Yeah.
Oh, my legs
So
are
that you should end up
And then turn that way like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
with a bead and that line still being on the work.
Yeah.
Rightio, now I can sit back and relax and watch the fun.
I put my lines in the wrong place. Could have been closer.
Yeah, they should have been in a bit closer, Rob, but that's all right.
Right, I'll. Okay, wish us luck.
Now, I deliberately haven't shown you anything about the skew, just to see how you go, all right?
It's the silver. It goes slow, too quick.
Right, that's pretty good, Rob. That's not bad, Brian.
We're just doing one or
Do them all. I don't care whether you do them individually or you run along and do the whole lot, one after the other.
ouch.
Now, this is the hardest part for me because I can't guide the chisel for you. Just use the extreme corner, Rob. Don't try and cut with all the blade yet.
Apologies, Robert, I can't hear you if you...
No, that's all right.
Right.
Just use the extreme point.
Yeah.
Not the come up the blade at all. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like tracing a line. It's like tracing a line.
Okay.
That's better. Good.
Hello, Brian.
Who said that?
That was Shirley.
Hi, Shirley. How you doing, girl?
Hang on.
You put me off there. You see that? I just had a catch.
And what's more, you're on full screen too, Brian.
Yeah, that was Shirley's fault.
I think he's nearly wrapping up.
If we weren't live, I could say something, but I won't.
At least said soon as man did, Rob.
You're going well there, Brian. That's good. Oh, that's pretty good, Rob.
Well done,
I'm not. You're lucky I've got Rob on full screen at the moment.
Oh, that's good. Had to put a line back there.
That's a nice finish off the skew there for Rob.
Yeah, it's going well. Now, let's see how Amber's going up here.
Sorry, I can't hear. I'm making a right mess.
No, you're going all right, Rob. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Considering I haven't told you how to use the skew yet, I just wanted to see what you knew and what you didn't.
All right. I kind of don't know anything. I don't understand how. I don't want to take other people's time to focus onto me, but I don't understand how to form the shape.
Yeah, no.
And when I do, it comes off the bevel and then skates back.
Yeah, that's the skew chisel relies totally on bevel contact. It is the only thing.
Yes.
Whereas with your gouges and things, you've generally got your cutting edge supported by the tool rest as well, but on the screw you haven't.
I see. Right. Okay, that makes sense to us because I can do this with a gouge, obviously, as you say. I'm being supported by the tool rest.
Yeah, well, think of the skew chisel like Beethoven. There's 3 movements.
Yes.
So you got to. The handle should actually describe an arc.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yes. Right. So it describes an arc. Right. I'm going to try again and try to describe an arc. Right, that's what you call as being silly because I try to describe the arc without taking into account anything of the shape of this, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to be honest with you. There's no point lying. I don't understand. I've watched millions of videos. I know the problems with me because the best wood turners in the world have described how to do beads. It's just me personally. I'm just not understanding.
Yep.
And on one hand, I do understand. I know keep the bevel in contact. I know that because as soon as it comes off the bevel, it starts searching and it shoots off.
Yep.
But what I don't understand is how to keep the bevel on. Now, if I do a plain and cut, I kind of do. But you have to do something pretty wild, I think, to get a skate back from there. It's this forming the shape I just can't get.
Right, just hold on a second, Rob.
Okay.
I reckon Robbo's gone to get his big skew.
Rob, do you have a slightly bigger piece of timber, like 3x3 or 4x4?
I don't, sorry. I don't.
All right, okay.
I can get one ready for next week.
Sorry?
I can get one ready for next week.
Rightio.
If that's what you prefer.
Yeah, I'll just try and show you something on this, all right?
Yeah.
Now, I make no bones about it. The Skew is the hardest chisel in the world to get to use.
You might want to just whack yourself up on full screen there for a sec, Robbo.
Sorry?
You might just want to whack yourself up on full screen if you're trying to show something.
Yeah, all right.
There we go.
Right, now, Rob.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can get the camera angle I want off this other camera. Trying to work out the best way of describing this to you. and of interest to the others as well. So if we can, right. So your first movement is across like that, right?
Yes.
It's got to traverse the tool rest like that.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, it's actually twisting up. See how it's
Yes.
twisting over as well?
Yes.
And your handle has to come up because you're working in towards a reducing diameter. And that's where it gets the twist from. Now, wait on. I'll see if I get enough length on this to get this in behind here so that you can see the handle. No, I can't quite get it back. Wait on. Oh, might. Right. I'll just lift this rest up a bit. Now, watch the end of the handle here as it goes over.
Okay.
So I've got it on the bevel here, right? Now, as it goes up, see how this is coming up like this?
Yes.
That's where you get your action from to get it online. Now, what I have done in the past to try and teach people, I had a bloke a fair while ago that couldn't quite grasp it, was I got one of the whiteboard markers,
Yes.
and I actually marked the bevel here,
Yes.
and what he had to do was rub the paint off without the thing moving,
Yes.
and that helped him get it around that corner there. So
Yeah.
if you can get a slightly bigger piece of wood and put a bigger bead on it,
Yes.
like this one,
Yes.
it gives you an idea. Or, don't laugh, see if you can find a bottle or something that's got a round section on it,
Right.
and then just try following the bead around with the chisel and
Yeah.
rubbing your marker off.
Yes. That's a good idea.
Okay.
Yes.
So anyway, while I got this set up like this, yeah, bevel contact is important because, as all of you know, you're just down on this little short point here, sitting on the rest, and there's no real support for the tool. So you're only relying on the bevel. And in fact, now, I don't know how I did this years ago. I'll see how I go now.
Couldn't see anything there, Robbo.
Yeah, sorry. I'll change the overhead camera.
Body cam.
Oh, no, there we go.
Oh wow! Not on the rest. Wow! I did not know that was possible.
I do not want to see anybody try that.
I won't.
Okay?
No way.
But it shows you how much that this chisel relies just strictly on bevel support
Yes.
without the tool rest.
Yes.
If you lose the bevel contact, you're going to lose the cut. And it's as simple as that. Right, now we might call it a night tonight if you like. Let your nerves calm down a bit. And if you can just practice that during the week, you're going very well, Brian, but then you've had a few bits and pieces. That's good. No, I'll just show you something else to practice as well before we do that.
Good one.
Your own temperature's actually gone up, to be honest. Alright, so we're leaving it here and packing up.
I'll leave this big piece of timber in actually. Now you can rough down a piece of timber with a spindle gouge, just a normal spindle gouge. as well, instead of just a spindle roughing gouge. Now, I prefer forged gouges. In other words, gouges that look like this. Instead of round, they're actually forged. And my favourite one is the 1/2 inch one, this one here. So it's just hammered down. Now you've got round gouges now, and they're mainly the propensity of most things. And I don't particularly like them. Part of the reason I don't like them is that people sharpen them the wrong way. Now, that has got a slight swept back grind on it. I'll just get it in the camera. And that's about where I sharpen that particular round gouge to. And it's got what's called a thumbnail. Now, when I was being taught turning 40 years ago, there were only 2 grinds. Because we didn't have bowl gouges. Bowl gouges had just come in. They hadn't reached Australia even by then. And there was a thumbnail grind, and the way the thumbnail grind comes in is that this little pink bit at the bottom of your thumbnail here is called a lunula, L-U-N-U-L-A. And it was sharpened to that shape there. All gouges were sharpened to that shape. And there's a good reason that they were sharpened that way. I'll show you in a minute why. Now, with the advent of round gouges and jigs, people have been sharpening on jigs and they're pulling them right back until you've got a point on them down here. Now, I'm not picking on you, Brian, but the other night I noticed that you were using it.
Yep.
And when you're trying to cut with it, it keeps tearing ahead of the...
Yep.
You keep tearing ahead of the line, and it's because it's got no virtual bevel support behind there, particularly when you're doing trying to do a cut down there, like that. Whereas with the rounder, with the thumbnail grind, you're cutting and it's got such a wide area here to contact that it just leaves a perfect finish as it goes down. The same with doing a cove with a thumbnail grind on it. It just fits in nicely, whereas if you use a pointed one, what it wants to do, it wants to tend to dive into the thing and make it too sharp. So what I might get you to do on your bit of timber there, I'll just take this out. Put this one in. Right, I'll take my ugly face off and put you all back on there again so as I can see you all. Right. Now, on these, try doing a bead, just doing one with a spindle gouge. So you come over like so.
See what happens when the student doesn't listen. I told her not to take the piece of wood out, and she's like, "No, I'm taking it out."
All right. Now, Brian.
Yes.
I want you to try one with the gouge that I told you to use with that thumbnail grind on it, the 45 degree,
yep.
And do one with your pointed one and see the difference. I'm just going to put you up on full screen. So.
I'm doing this one, the cove in the middle. I'm making a cove, am I?
No, do a bead with it, with that one. Now use your pointed one to do a bead on the one next to it. No, next door. Where
Next
it's
door.
flat.
This one here.
That one, yeah.
Dr. Bob's just dropped in, Robbo.
Oh, good day, Bob. How are you? Right. See how you're getting flat sides with that one rather than a
Yeah, I
curve?
see that, yeah.
Right. Now do a cove on the next flat one with that chisel. Right. You virtually get the same effect. It wants to dive in and not...
It is, right. And I can't get it to go smooth at the bottom.
Yeah, right. Now use your other one again. The shape of the point, or the shape of the cutting edge, has got a great deal to do with the reason the tools are used the way they are. And because they've been sharpened that way for centuries, that's the reason they do work well. Now, I'm not saying there's not a use for a pointed one,
No.
but I use the ones with a rake back on the points for hollowing things out like boxes and things like that, because you've got that long wing to be able to do it. But for doing beads and coves, which is 99% of my work, it's
That's much easier with that standard grind. What I call it, that a standard grind?
yeah, thumbnail grind it is.
Much thumbnail grind. It's much easier than to get the bottom of that cleared out and get it really smooth.
Yeah, right, now
Whereas this one's still got a little ridge in it.
Yeah, I'll put... right, Rob, do you want to have a go?
Yes. Do you want to do a cove?
Yeah, come up to the other end, up your tailstock end.
Yeah.
Do a bead there,
Bead
which
here.
is with a spindle gouge,
Yes.
and a cove on the next flat one.
Right, okay.
Yep. And you can do the same.
My bead's not very good.
Yeah, that's not bad, Rob. That's pretty good. Can I just have a look at the chisel, please, Rob?
Yeah.
Just right, open out the fluke so they can see it. Yeah, now that's not a bad shape, but if you can just flatten out that nose a little bit, bring the nose back a bit,
yes,
and blend it into the sides, it'll work a lot better.
Right, great. Thank you. Right.
Okay, how are you going there, Amber? Rightio. Good. Okay. Now, just one more thing. I think the reason that most people have pulled like this is really radical, this one. I'll just get it up there into the screen. Like it's got a very long bevel down the back here, 30 degrees, and it rakes right back. Now, this is one I do use for hollowing out boxes and things like that. And I think the reason a lot of people have gone over to using these is because they've never been taught the skew chisel, because they couldn't get, like, it's not hard, but in order to get down to the bottom where you've got your curve coming in, you've got to have clearance beside the tool. And on a lot of cases, when they wanted two beads together, like here, the wing used to hit this one. So they used this instead to come down around the thingy and clean out the bottom. Whereas if you use the skew chisel, you got the job solved. And I blame a lot of the clubs and things these days, and the teachers, for not teaching people to use the skew chisel. So, all right, that's my rant for the night.
That was a gentle rant.
It was very moderate.
I've been taking lessons off Wayne the woodturner over his rant. I don't know if anybody ever saw that rant. Is Mark still in the chat? Mark, the gentleman woodturner?
Don't know if he has or not.
I know that Mark saw him. I'll give you a demo of Wayne's rant, which is pretty much the same as my rant in most cases.
So, Robbo,
Yep.
do I have homework of practicing beads and coves?
Beads and coves, that's it. Yep.
Okay. With the skew
just
chisel
use-
for the skew chisel for the beads and
do them both with a skew chisel and a
spindle gouge.
gouge,
Yes.
and just mark it out like that, and use the cheapest, crappiest timber you can find.
Yes.
You don't want to be wasting good timber, because the whole lot ends up on the floor anyway.
Yes.
So did you see Wayne's rant? Did you, Sid?
I got a feeling I did, but you'll have to remind me.
I'm going to have a rant. Okay, that's
There
it.
you go. That's it. Rant's over. Yep.
Now, Robert, I'm not sure whether I mentioned it earlier, but you know I'm on penalty rates after the first hour.
It was mentioned and you got the same answer, I thought. Stiff pickies. All right.
It's a bit of bad luck at Hubham's head.
Yeah, I thought it was time and a half.
Yeah, yeah. You know what's that done, though, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Right.
Going to chicken.
Any questions on any of that so far?
Nope.
No,
No.
just need to practice more, Robo. Robo, thank you very much. That was excellent.
Yes, thank you, Robbo. That was awesome lesson.
All right.
Lots
Now,
of
as
good
I
comments in the chat too, Robbo, about the lessons going on. People saying that they've learnt so much tonight, and just commenting on they're going back out to practice doing the same things you've been showing these guys. So I think there's good benefit in it all right.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's the secret is practice. Now, Rob, as I said, if you can get a scrap piece of stuff or even a glass jar or bottle
Yes.
that's got a round section on it, and just try tracing it down with a skew chisel.
So,
And
Robbo, I just put a mark on me skew chisel
Yep.
and go around the shape.
Wait on, I'll just get you up on full screen.
Sorry, I might have.
Just trash in the joint.
So put a mark on there, then get something which is a good bead already. I know there's not one yet, but
Yeah, just run it around that and see
go
how you
back
go.
around. Right.
Now have a look at the chisel and see whether you've got all the marker off, keeping the... Now, all right, I better just clarify something. What are you sharpening on? Are you sharpening on a...
It's a
That's all
grinder. It's a grinder.
right.
Um,
So it's a hollow grind.
yes.
Yeah, rightio. Yeah,
Um,
if you use a whiteboard marker rather than a texture color,
yeah.
it tends to come off easier.
Where's your long point there, Robbo?
Just rubs.
Robocop?
Sorry, Sid?
Which is the long point? Because from the angle you're looking at, it looks like you got the long point down.
This one here.
That's the long point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the long point at the top. There.
Yep, that's it.
And then
Always lead with a short point.
then I went round there.
The only time the long point gets used is wait until this thing sorts itself out. The only time the long point gets used on the skew chisel in most cases is when you're doing a I lost my chisel. Here it is. When you're doing a cut into the timber, like if you're trimming off the end down here, it's always the long point leading because you've only got this bevel, the shoulder it is actually, behind the point actually giving support. So that's the only time you ever use the long point. All the rest of the cuts are done with any sliding cuts are always done with a short point leading.
Yeah.
Because you can see what you're doing. If you try cutting something with a short point, you can't see it properly anyway because the long point's hiding it.
Yeah. Yeah, that would. Robbo, can I just ask, just in case, because I'm not fully understanding. You know the V cut when we first marked off the lines and we first did the V cut. To start with, you said keep the tool vertical, so the blade straight up at 12 o'clock, and just push forward.
Yep.
Then when we come to widen that V groove, I didn't catch this bit properly. What I've been doing in the past is I've been like rotating this, so it's like sort of up. I think that would be 11 o'clock where you're looking. And I've been coming in like that. But I think you said keep it up at 12.
Right, just hold on. I'll show you. I'll zoom the camera down a bit. That's probably too far.
And I noticed my V grooves are not good at all. Like I've got a captured ring on there.
Right,
I'm not good at cleaning up the...
Now, all right, you hold the chisel. It's damn hard to see there, actually.
I think I can see enough, Robbo.
Can you see it?
Yes, I can see at 12 o'clock.
Okay, so what you do, wait on, I know what I'll do. I'll put the bigger bit in. Right. Now, chisel vertical like that.
Yes.
Make your mark, right?
Yeah.
Now, you're pushing too hard or too deep when it starts smoking like that, all right?
That's it.
So all you got to do is just put a mark in like that. Now, you can just move it to the side and pick up the cut and just move it forward straight in like that.
So you move the whole chisel.
Yeah.
I see.
Now, what happens is the bevel on this side, because it's facing across that way, just automatically pushes the chisel across and leaves it in a nice straight line. Now, there is another way of doing it where you can, for this side, you put it about 12 and cut down, and about 5 to 12 down this side. That's the way a lot of blokes teach, and that's fine. But I find sometimes what happens is this: instead of getting a nice straight side here, when you angle it across, you're likely to get a bit of a curve down it, and it doesn't quite look good. So I tend not to do that. I just tend to use the bevel and slide it straight in.
Yes. No, that explains it perfect. Thank you.
That does indeed. That was an excellent way of doing that. I've been doing
Sorry,
that wrong
what?
all the time as well.
Yes, because I hadn't realised. Probably the same with you, possibly, Brian. I didn't realise once you do the first groove,
Yeah, just
you
move
the
over half a
whole
mil.
tune, and then it'll. Yes, that's great. Excellent. It makes sense. Yes, because what I've been keeping this stationary and twisting for both sides. So I like that way better.
All right, we're going to run away.
Okay, no worries.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for your lesson.
Thank you for coming in. Same time, same channel next week.
Okie dokie.
All right, catch us later.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye,
Bye.
Amber.
Probably getting a bit chilly there for Amber and Jason, I reckon.
Yeah, well, it's starting to drop down a fair bit here too. Down to about 9, I think.
Oh, 16 degrees here. I'm fine. It's nice
Good
in my
stuff.
workshop.
Yeah, well, that's swimming weather for you, isn't it?
It is, right?
Yeah.
Robbo, how important is tool rest height? Because I know you production wood turners.
Sorry?
I know. I'm just asking how important tool rest height is for the skew, because I know you production wood turners. You don't move the rest. You can do everything, whether it's a cove or
Yeah.
a bead with a skew or plain and cut. You work off the same height.
Yeah,
So
I'd
for
just keep
me,
it. I
should
keep
I
it at
be?
the same height all the time. But next week, what we'll do is I'll go into the tool rest heights and everything. Then I sort of wanted to get an overview of what
Yes,
you could do and what you couldn't. So
oh yes. I was just asking for when I practice for this week.
yeah, well, if you lift it up a little bit for your skew,
Yes.
you might find that's a help. All right.
Right.
If you set the tool rest on centre height rather than under centre.
Yeah, that's center there. Let's move that. Right.
So that you're working up more towards the top.
Yes. Right. I'll do that. Because I wasn't sure whether, because I don't know how to do it now, should I try the advanced way straight away?
Sorry.
I wasn't sure because I don't know how to do it at the moment. A bead. I wasn't sure whether to just learn the advanced way of keeping the rest at the normal height.
No. Well, just get used to doing it. Once you get used to that, it's like cutting a cylinder, right? Now,
Yeah.
when I'm teaching the planing cut, for instance, I always say that this angle here should be 45 degrees
Yes.
across the timber.
Yes.
But in a lot of cases, we're working right across here, where it's nearly flat along the thing. So,
Yes.
but once you get used to doing something, then you can start playing around, you know?
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I don't know how many bloody cubic feet of timber I destroyed actually learning. I'll tell you, there wasn't a pallet that was safe within 20 miles of my place.
It's so blinking expensive wood now. Hopefully it'll go back down.
No, as I said, just pick the cheapest timber you can get your hands on.
Yeah, I just got cheap pine. I just went out today for it.
Yeah, right. Well, see where your thumb is there. You've got a big knot there.
Yes.
So don't try and do anything on that.
Okay,
all right?
I'll leave it. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just leave that blank.
Right. Okay.
All right. Any questions out of the chat? No?
Lots of comments, Robbo, but not so much.
There.
And as I said earlier on tonight, for those that weren't here right at the start, thank you all so much for your get well wishes and everything. It is really, really appreciated. And Darren's good. Oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
I was just going to say we're well worried because it sounds awful. A collapse.
Sorry, what was
Right,
that, Rob?
I did a
Just
K.
saying, I was just saying we were all worried about you.
Well, what?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, a week ago, I was very worried too. My wife, I've said this in another live, my wife astounds me.
Mm-hmm.
I staggered out of our bedroom, and I just said, call an ambulance. And she knew that if I said call an ambulance, man, I was very, very ill.
Yes.
And she just calmly went about it and directed the ambulance and everything else. No panic, no hysterics, no nothing.
Yes.
So,
Good woman. Good woman.
Yeah. Very good woman, because that keeps you calm, because the last thing you need
yeah.
is to get worried.
And I said to her, where did you get that from? And she said, from you. She said, I've watched you in some diabolical situations and you just divorce yourself. And I said, yeah, well, that's the way it is, you know.
Yeah.
But no, thank you all. Not to put too blunt a point on it, the specialist, they got me into emergency and they didn't even take me anywhere. I was still in the wheelchair when they put the tube into my chest to get the air out of the lung, to get it back, because it was so bad that he said if we'd let her go for another 30 minutes, she would have been dead. So
Bloody hell.
I don't want to go through that again, that's for sure.
Absolutely not, Robbo. We're glad you're back here, fitting well and helping us all to improve our tunnel. Thanks, mate.
That's well said.
I don't have much more to give these days, and turning has been absolutely fantastic to me. I've made a hell of a lot of very good friends out of wood turning, and I would not have met them, because it's one of the up until the clubs and that came along, it really is one of the loneliest hobbies I reckon you can get, because you're stuck in your shed by yourself most of the time, and particularly with COVID coming along, it's probably cemented. I'd say, well, it's a proud boast of mine. I could probably travel anywhere in the world and not have to search for a bed. All I'd have to do is get on a woodwork forum and say good day, and they'd say, "Oh, come round here and stay tonight," you know.
Yep.
So
Wood tunnels seem to be like that. It's a great community.
oh, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got some great friends on Facebook, on YouTube, and we chat with them regularly and little chat rooms and stuff. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
All through lockdown and everything, we've been able to communicate with each other and just enjoy each other's company in our sheds by ourselves, but still over the internet we're communicating. It's fabulous.
Oh, that's right. That's the one thing that I miss about lockdowns. Like, we're in lockdown again now, number 6. But is my mate's not calling in for a cup of tea and the lies and bullshit, you know?
Yeah. Tell stories, yeah.
I think we've got to give a bit of credit where it's due too, because those lunchtime lives you UK guys started up with a while ago. That's been a saving grace for the wood turning and general maker community.
I think so too.
I think you're right, Sid. I think there must be a lot of people who have just took up wood turning during lockdown. Like for me, for instance, I discovered a live stream from Martin Saban Smith. I'm not sure what his channel's called, but the owner of Hampshire Sheen.
Yep. Martin has his own channel.
And Pete from Twisted Trees was in there, And everybody was so nice, and I was really clueless. I didn't know anything, and I kept asking loads of questions. Everybody was just so cool, answering all the questions, and they were really dumb questions, by the way.
No, there's no such thing as a dumb question, Rob.
Well, proper
If you-
newbie questions. Because I said, well, how many chucks do I need to buy? And they said, oh, just one. You buy different jaws. I didn't know what they were talking about. I didn't realise you get interchangeable jaws. So but everyone was so nice and cool. And Pete from Twisted Trees was totally awesome. And I think it was possibly 3 months later, 3 months later, I got this list. And I decided I'm going to try. But of course, you know what I'm like. I try to instead of doing what I should do and know to do, practice the basics. I try to jump ahead to create something. And the irony is, I haven't actually created anything nice yet. Now, I'm not putting myself down, by the way. That's next door. That purple heart goblet I tried last week. It snapped. I did it. A hollow spiral, and I didn't even realize just how weak that would become, and it was collapsing under its own weight when I took the tailstock out. But
the only dumb question is the one you don't ask.
That's it.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
Yes. So I hope the ones I did ask, I hope other people who are watching, I hope they had the same sort of question.
Yeah. Well, what you want to remember, Rob, always there are people who will be sitting back wishing they had the courage to ask the questions that you're asking.
Yes.
So
Yes,
you're
right,
asking them on behalf of lots of other people. Don't ever think you're asking a stupid question, mate, because there is none.
Because as Robbo said before, a lot of people teach the V cut by doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never actually seen, or maybe I haven't understood, that you move the actual skew
Move the
chisel
tool. Yeah, move the tool over a bit.
and push in again. And I didn't actually. So hopefully other people in the chat have learned that bit as well.
Well,
We'll get more next week.
I'll give you a good example, Rob.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not name dropping or anything, but I know probably most of the name turners in the world.
Yes.
I've met quite a lot of them. Julio Mark Longlow, for instance, if you've heard of him, he's a demonstrator all over the world. He only lives 30k down the road from me. There's another one called Ken Wright. Vic Wood, unfortunately, who passed away a little while ago, was a friend of mine. Anyway, and I met Mahoney and everybody from America and this and that.
Yeah.
And what we do during demonstrations when they're demonstrating is we ask the dumb questions. Like
Right.
if Vic Wood's there, I'll say, excuse me, Mr. Wood, but why are you cutting that way? Why don't you do it back this way?
Right.
And he has to stop and think. And he does the same to me or anybody else that he's in a demonstration that he's watching.
Yeah.
Because we know that there's people in the audience that want to ask that question but are too ashamed or too frightened to. So we do. And I've had people come up and said, geez, I thought you were a wood turner, mate. How come you asked the dumb? I said, because it made everybody else think about it.
Yeah.
So we play devil's advocate quite a lot.
All right, cool.
Yeah, we do the same thing.
And besides which, feedback from an audience is far better than people just sitting there bloody stupid.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely got a lot of good comments coming through on the chat, right from Pete Twisted Trees saying you've taught him a lot about teaching to people saying they've learned a lot just about turning.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
So I think that's sort of benefit there for everyone, learning how to teach as well as learning how to turn.
I actually enjoy teaching. I come from a teaching family, so I've picked up a lot of that. But there is a knack to it. I know a lot of good wood turners that can't teach, and I know a lot of teachers that can't wood turn. So I'm lucky I've got both. Well, I think I've got both. So.
Well, I enjoyed that today, I have to say. And I've learned a whole lot, so I'll be practicing this week, ready for next week.
And Brian looks like he's chafing at the bit there.
He does a bit, doesn't he?
All ready to go.
Is there people still in the chat watching?
Yeah, they're still banging away. Yep,
I
still
can't-
going on there.
There's still 36 in there. I can't believe it.
Right, I've got a question, and because you have just said the only dumb question is the one you don't ask, I'm brave enough to ask. Now, earlier when we first started, and you can see I'm always tickling the wood, like tickle, 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 and a millimetre comes off. And you said, try doing a bigger cut. So I was confident because you were there watching and you had told me to do it. So I tried to take a bigger cut. Now, this is only based on intuition as opposed to knowledge or experience. Me fear was if I take a big cut, something bad's going to happen. Obviously, nothing bad did happen. So that gave me a little bit of confidence. But now I'm unsure as to when and where. It's hard to describe. So I know if I roughen down, I can take a bigger cut. Yep. But if it goes to a cove, well, I don't know if anything bad's going to happen if I put the chisel in to try to take a big cut.
No, what you've got to do with coves is you've got to give relief for the chisel to work.
Yes.
Because
it would just get stuck, wouldn't it? Nothing bad would happen. Right. It would just get stuck.
Like, just to give you an idea, Robbo,
what I find because my lathe's the same as Rob's, if I go too hard and take too big a cut with it,
it stops.
It just stalls. It just stops.
Yeah.
It just stops spinning. That's probably the worst thing that's going to happen, Rob. If you go too hard and too heavy, you're just going to stop the wood from spinning.
I think because I'm so slow, that's possibly part of the reason why I'm slow, because I'm taking tiny.
Yeah. The other thing too that you've got to bear in mind is, funnily enough, the chisels go blunter the slower you go. I know that sounds stupid, but
it makes sense because of how many miles you're covering when it spins.
Exactly, and if you think of a chisel like an axe, when you split a log, I'll draw it out. That's the easiest way. So you've got your log, and you're going to split this end here. Now, when you get your axe, the first thing that makes contact is the sharp edge. But once that sharp edge is in, the sharp edges, the cheeks of the axe are splitting the timber ahead of the sharp edge, and that's what happens with the skew chisel as well. Like, it's actually the actual cutting edge really is just there, and that's it, because the rest of the timber's being peeled away from it.
Yeah.
So, but I was going to say that you always need relief where to get a chisel into. So I'll just, like, if you want to put a bead in the middle of this, for instance, without marking it out. So you end up with tear out and stuff down this side here.
Yeah.
So you're better off giving it relief. So you can just get it straight in.
I hope one day I can do a bead like that.
Just like that. Just like that.
Robbo, would it be fair to say to whack that cheap timber on and just rough it down the round and just keep taking it down and work the speed on trying to take it down as fast as you can till it breaks?
Yeah. That's part of the thing. Like, what I do now, Rob, is where you've still got your flat ones on your flats like this, is do a bead or a cove on them.
Yes.
And then
take them off.
And then slice them off, mark it out again at 20 millimeters, do it all again. And you just keep going and going and going until there's no timber left virtually.
Right.
We've got a question from Ben. I haven't read it yet, and I don't know whether I'm going to. What's the difference in pressure between a bevel rubbing cut that burnishes the wood nicely and one that causes bruises that ruin your finish? Oh, it's actually a good question.
Yeah. The pressure. like this. Wait on, I'll just rub this out so as I can get back to a start again.
It's all about the feel, eh?
That's a good point you just said, Brian. I don't want to disturb Robo, but you can only develop feels through practice, can't you?
Yep.
I'm not sure whether I've offended Ben or not.
Oh, he's run away? Oh, how
No, he
rude.
said I was rude. He said I was rude.
Yeah, probably because Ben's kind of famous for putting in funny kind of questions. Your reputation precedes you, Ben.
Right. Now, in every book you read or anything, they say to rub the bevel, right? So, that is rubbing the bevel, and as you can see, the timber is well burnished behind the cut and silky smooth. But if I were to put it, well, actually a finish probably wouldn't penetrate that like a stain or something like that. It'd be very, very blotchy if it did get anything into it. But we have to sand back our work so that the finish does go onto it, so to remove the glaze. But if you press too hard, yes, particularly on softwoods, and you can actually hear it with the open grain. Hear it going bang, 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 bang. That's actually bruising the timber. And it's pushing the softer grain. If you ran your fingers around that now, you can actually feel these harder grains standing up. So that means it's been pushed down too tight. You've compressed the softer grain in behind the harder grain, and it's bruised the timber. I prefer the term either gliding or caressing the bevel, which is you still end up with the same cut, but you're letting the chisel do the work and it's not being forced. So, Ben, I hope that answers your question.
I think it
It's
might have
just
just
lighter.
about nailed it, Robbo.
It's a lighter touch to it. Right. Keep asking away. Any questions or anything?
So big thumbs up from Ben. I think you answered the question very well, nicely for him.
Oh, good.
Well, that's actually pointed something that nice burnish finish off the chisel is not necessarily a good thing if you want to get any sort of finish into the wood. So that was handy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, that's why. If you ever watch a bloke called Steve Jones, Wood Turner 21, he's fantastic with the skew chisel, and he's like me. We have to sand back our work so the finish is going on. In production work, we only sand to 180 at the maximum, unless they've got a special request to go any higher. But most of our work goes out at 180 because the finishers look after that. Many years ago, there was a customer I was pursuing because he was doing a lot of staircase work down around Sale and Gippsland. And he was getting all the balusters and newel posts and everything done in Melbourne, which annoyed me. And anyhow, he finally gave me a job. So I did it. And man, those balusters, they shone in the dark, man. They were like lightsabers, you know, because I polished them so much. I get a phone call 2 days later after I'd installed it from the painters. And I'll be a bit polite on her, but it was basically along the lines of get out here quick and take these out and sand them back so as we can get some paint to go stick on them.
So a couple more questions, Robbo. They're both related, so I'll ask them both at the same time. So Flick's asked, what's your recommendation for bevel angle on a skew? And then Eric has followed up with, I'm still not sure of the angle of the skew, the bevel of the grind.
Right, okay. That is the skew angle across here. The bevel angle is those two up there. And I'm not trying to treat you like idiots, but a lot of people need clarification on that because I'm not sure which ones they're asking about. So my bevel angle is approximately 1.5 the thickness of the skew. So this is a 6mm thick skew. That bevel angle is about 9.5. I don't go on angles much. I do what suits me. If you make them too long, it makes them a little bit grabby. If you make them too short, it's like trying to bludgeon something to death with a club. So I always use 1.5 to 2 times the thickness of the steel for the length of the bevel, which I think works out about 25, 27 or 28 degrees. Now, the skew angle, I like 20 degrees. Most people run them at 30. I like 20. In fact, sometimes I even come down less. And there's Steve Jones, the one I was talking about there. He runs even less than that. His is about 15. But I find if I'm teaching students that 20 degrees works well because I don't have to get their body out of the way as much. So, yeah, skew angle about 20 degrees. This one, 1.5 to 2 times the width, the thickness of the tool. And that gives you the correct angle on the end.
Okay,
Does that answer the question for you, Felicity? Sorry?
I think you've got that. And then we've got another one from Woodwork Learner. Any suggestions on how to reduce the effect of body wobble on a cut? The wobble is due to a disability.
Yep. Is the disability in your hands, your legs, or your back?
So Flick said thanks.
No worries. Oh, it must be a boring Saturday night or Saturday morning. So.
Still 39 watching, yeah. Eric's giving you a thumbs up.
In your back. Right. Now, I take it that what you mean is this, and please, I'm not trying to make fun of you, Woodwork Learner, all right? That if you're using the skew chisel, you tend to get, because you can't hold it rigid enough. I've just got to wait for an answer.
Yep. So Pete's commented 1.5 thickness is about 15 degrees on his skews.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, but if you get them too blunt, they don't cut very well. I know that. A little just starting, yeah. Right. Oh, sorry, I've got the chat up at the moment, Sid, but that's good.
Oh, okay. No worries.
Right. The only thing I can suggest is that you put more pressure on the hand that's on the rest so that it's acting like a little brake to hold it. And are you turning sitting down or standing up? Standing when you can. Yeah, right. If you can put pressure down on your rest with your hands and act like a brake as you start, And if you can keep your back rigid and just use your knees and legs to move, you should overcome a lot of that. If not, get a very stiff-backed stool almost that you can sort of prop against. We don't laugh. We had a bloke that had a back brace that I was teaching, and they had sort of the same problem. And what we did was it looked like a cat scratcher. There was a platform he could stand on that had a post that he used to brace himself against so that he could turn. He could only turn in 4 or 5 inch increments with it, but at least he can still turn. And if he started getting off that, he'd end up with that effect along there again because he couldn't get it stiff enough. But yeah, if you can put pressure on your hands down onto the rest, that might alleviate a lot of the problems for you. And I'm just curious now. I'm going to get my degree gauge to see what angle I actually do have on the skew chisel.
So Woodwork Learner said thank you very much.
Okay. Right. The included angle is close enough to 45 degrees on my that's measuring across that way. So let's see what it is, halfway, just for the hell of it.
It's about 22.5 degrees, Robbo.
Yeah.
Should be.
Yep, 22.5 degrees, spot on.
So Pete's commented in there on the skipping too. The tool rest height and relative height could possibly cause skipping issues.
Yes, it could. You're dead right. That's why I said lift the tool rest up a little bit and plate and put a little bit more pressure on it. And who else have we got in there? That's what Robbo was there for.
Question for Brian, what are you making? And yeah, Darren's just put a good comment in, guys. If you like what you're watching, mate, if you're not subscribed already, subscribe so you pick up when the next one happens.
Yeah, and just bear in mind that I do have 2 channels.
2 channels, that's just greedy.
No,
there you go. Just put the link to your other one in there again just now, Robbo.
Yeah.
It was Wood Turner.
What happened there was when I started doing the lives, YouTube started up another channel for me.
That was good of them, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, terrific.
Darren's telling you off now, Robbo.
Yeah, no, actually, I'm not too bad. Actually, I'm a night owl anyway. So, and as long as people are interested in listening to me or want things known, I'll keep going.
That's the channel I'm subscribed to already.
Sorry,
What's the other channel said? That's the one I'm subscribed. Why don't you just put in the link in? That's the one I'm subscribed to.
Yeah, well, there's
probably
another one.
Subscribe to 2 then, Brian, I reckon.
What's the other one?
Yeah, it's just lives. I just type in Robbo Roberts on YouTube and it comes up.
All right, I'll find it.
So one's got over 1,000 subscribers and the other one's got 200 and something.
Yeah.
All right.
Here we go. Here's the second one coming up. So that links the one that Robbo's running on now.
All right. Okay.
And if you notice, the top link's actually got the custom URL on it, whereas this one hasn't.
Yeah. And that's the other crazy part about it too. Because I'd never applied for a custom URL on the other one.
And you have it anyway.
So a question from Eric there, Robbo.
Yeah. Right. Just to give you an idea, Eric, this at the moment is spinning at about 1,800 revs. And anything under about 3 inches, anywhere from 15 to 100, 1,500 to 2,000 revs is a good speed to turn at. No, don't be scared of speed. There's two advantages to using speed. You get a very good finish off the tool because it's not bouncing, particularly if it's square and you're turning a lot of air. The other thing is that you stuff things rather rapidly so you can get on with the next bit in a lot quicker.
Blair's just dropped in.
G'day, Blair. Yes, of course. America's probably waking up.
There's a line there, but I'm going to leave it alone.
Yeah, well, no,
there is.
Well, it's 20 to 2 in London, and it's 20 to 9 in the morning in Detroit now. So, like I said, America's just starting to wake up.
It's taking them long enough, huh?
Yeah. That's probably what Sid was going to say.
Yeah, I couldn't resist.
Oh dear.
They're having a go at you, Brian, about buying all the tools, but Mark can't be here. And funnily enough, look, and I'm not bragging, I've got over 250 chisels here.
Yeah.
And I use 5.
Yeah, I have 39 tools. So my good lady wife tells me.
Yeah.
she counts them, I don't.
So Blair's just said it's almost 7 a.m. there, so.
Yeah. Oh, top of the morning to you, Blair.
I have about 15 tools.
Yeah. Look, those 3 that I've just done today, I do 99% of my work with them.
So Ben wants to know if you can show each of your tools and the story behind them.
Yeah, all right.
We could be here for a week. How many did you say you got?
Over 250. But there's a lot of tools I don't use. I used to sell tools at one time, and I've never sold anything that I've never used myself. And of course, a lot of companies used to give me tools to try occasionally, and this is latest and greatest. No, sorry, it ain't. then I'd actually buy the tool. Plus, I've bought a lot of ex-workshops too, workshops that have closed down. I've just bought the whole lot, lock, stock and barrel, because I was after a particular machine that they had that I didn't. No, I haven't. Right. Yeah, I do have a thing against carbides for spindle turning and bowl turning in a lot of ways. But for carbide revolutionised hollow turning or deep hollowing, and you can't deny that. But for normal work, no, I still like my traditional tools.
So, Eric said that's why Brian has all those tools, because he gets up way before the Americans and buys them before they see them. Well, if that logic, I should have all the tools before Brian sees them.
Yeah, and I should get them before you.
This is true.
Correct.
Because I'm up half an hour earlier than you are.
Apparently.
Occasionally. Is that what you're going to say there? Occasionally?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
Ben said he's got way too many spindle gouges. Got 7 and uses 2.
Yeah, I can relate to that actually, Ben, and it's only because, like, under normal circumstances, you didn't see it earlier on, where we weren't live and that. But I asked Brian if he had another spindle gouge of a particular shape, because I was watching him the other night and it wasn't working properly, and I know why it wasn't. It's because the shape was all wrong.
Yep.
And
So
but
Steve's
if
off.
you'd been, yeah, see you later, Steve. Had he been here, I would have given him I'd have said, here, try this and see how that goes, you know. So I've got 4 or 5 different grinds on the tools, because sometimes one particular grind does not work properly for the way the person uses it. So I've got to have others there so that I can work out what to do with them. So, yeah, that's a
What
good
you got there,
selection.
Robocop?
As I said, Rob, I would be, I'll just put you up on full screen so you can see it very soon. I'd knock the points back on them.
Yeah.
Because they're too pointy and they bite too quickly.
Yeah. Do you know what it is? This one's about 3/8. This one's a 1/4.
Yeah.
This one, I think, 3 millimeters. But this one is a strange one. I say strange because it's strange to me. The flute is 1.5 millimeters. And it says 1.5 millimeters on there. The actual section, I think, would possibly be about.
Just give me a look at the end profile. Hold it up to the camera so the point's pointing at the camera.
Oh, sorry. Right there, I'm trying to look in there. Right there, I'm just going to move me out the way. I need to.
Yeah, I think that's a detail gouge.
Yeah.
What they call a long slot.
Yeah, and I should be rounding it over a lot more.
Yeah.
I think I need a grind. I've got a 2.0.
Are you using a jig to sharpen them?
No, that was on a platform. On the grinder. It was on a platform.
Oh yeah. Yeah, right. Just I'll put me back up here again.
I'll be honest, Robbo, I've not really used it. I have, but I went and bought that. I went and bought this other one, which has a much wider flute.
Yeah. Right.
For miniature stuff, I use.
So Chris Bailey just dropped in.
If you're using a platform, and just imagine, I'll bring me up here. Right, if you're using a platform,
Yeah.
the length down this side is
Yeah.
denoted by how far you swing the handle across.
Yes.
All right, like that.
Yes.
Now, to get this bevel down here,
Yeah.
I have to swing it right round to here. So it's nearly 70 or 80 degrees for the thing. It's nearly 90 degrees across the grinder, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this one is only, see the difference in the angle?
Yes. Yes.
And that's how you keep that rounded shape there.
Yes. No, that makes a lot of sense. My thinking was wrong. I was thinking if I had it pointy, I could get like in it, as you were saying before, how you can't use a skew, so you try to cheat with a pointy.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's kind of what the trap I fell into. So it's much better to do what you say and have a more efficient grind, so it will actually cut and behave in the way that it should.
Yeah, now
So I agree.
the chat went berserk there for a minute.
Yeah, Eric's got a question. When you're hollowing out an 8-inch deep vase, if you don't use a carbide tool, what do you use?
Well, believe it or not, we used to use gouges and things. But we also had what was called an Olin tool, which is just a cutter welded onto a steel bar, basically.
Do you know, Robbo, you're nearly 3 hours in and there's still 43 people watching.
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised. Yeah, well, that's what I do, Darren. If I'm working on a job, I probably have 5 or 6 tools, all ground the same, including skew chisels, so that I don't have to stop and sharpen all the time. So, g'day, Chris. How are you?
So, Valerie?
And Ben, you're right. It does depend on the work you do. And Eric, when you're hollowing out, bowl gouges. Yeah, I agree, Ben. Bowl gouges are even worse. And g'day, Valerie. How are you? And Tommy's going to get something to eat. I must say, Tommy, I think you're quite pleased with your new camper van, are you?
Like I say, I'm raking it in tonight. I've got 2 hours on double time now.
Yeah, and if you think Rob was paying you double time,
Just wait a minute. I'm checking out for flying pigs and things. No, hell hasn't frozen over, and there's no pink pigs flying.
It all depends on the starting rate, though, doesn't it, Brian?
I'm just
that's
pleased,
true. Yeah,
I'm just pleased Robbo hasn't charged us.
yeah, me too.
No.
I've learned
Yeah,
huge
no.
amounts today.
I've noticed that, Tommy. That's. I must admit, I love my motorhome, but it hasn't moved much in the last 18 months, nearly 2 years now, because of COVID and stuff. But anyway, we'll get there. Best way to travel, I reckon. All right, I am going to knock it on the head shortly. So, all right.
So
So
Robbo,
good night, all.
One quick question there, Robbo. Just do you ever do flat work, or is it just turning?
Oh no, we used to make a heck of a lot of furniture. In fact, I furnished a whole house. It was only 80 squares in Sydney, including a library that was 40 feet long and 50 feet wide, 12 feet high, that was stacked to tops with library books and had all the ladders and everything running. It was modelled after the Sydney Library, the reading room in the Sydney Library. So yes, I used to make furniture and everything, and that. and I found that low end stuff was no good. So most of my stuff was very, very high end, and I make no bones about that.
Tommy's commented first time on the lathe in months, Robbo, just to practice with you. So that was a part of the benefit you were looking for too, I think.
I'm glad that I inspired you too.
Well done, Tommy.
Yeah, good night, Michael. Good night, Chris.
Yep. See you all.
Yeah. All right.
All right,
Same
guys.
time, same next week. So
Yep. See
Sounds
you
like
next
a
week,
plan.
Robo.
Hey,
No,
thank
if not,
you.
see you next week, if not before, mate.
yeah, and Woodwork Learner, if you run into any trouble or anything, I'm on Facebook, just same name, Robbo Robertson. Just send me a private message and I'll do what I can to help you, all right?
Brilliant.
See you, Flick. See you, Darren. Tommy, everyone else. Ricky.
Okay. All right, good night all.
Good night, guys.
Take care, everyone.
Good afternoon, wherever you are.
Yeah.
Has
There we
Robbo
go,
gone?
and he's off. Yeah, Robbo's off. He's gone.
All
Good
right.
job, guys. And it's good to see him
Thanks,
up and running. He's
Thanks,
still
Ed.
live.